Good morning, happy Friday, and welcome back to the NOFO Live Show, where I, Sunita, along with my two co-hosts, Tracy from Miss Tracy Kessler and Kelly from NOFO Endless Summer, we hop on every Friday to talk about everything North Fork. And it is definitely winter on the North Fork. It is brutal cold. I don't know if anybody experienced the crazy windy stuff that for the last couple of days I've had branches and tree limbs, literally tree limbs falling yard, and it's been a little the weather's been a little brutal. But everywhere there's holiday decorations and so many activities and events. Good
Hi.
morning, Lucy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I was just going to say that we're all getting a little bit in the holiday mood because just everywhere around there are, tree lighting ceremonies and
I
holiday
know. It's
decorations.
making me feel like I'm behind.
Oh, well, that's not good. Don't feel
I
like you're
know.
behind. Feel like you're in the midst of it all. It's all
I will
happening.
try. I will try. My plan is this Sunday, I'm going to decorate the outside of the house, and then possibly like the next week or after, I'll do the tree inside. Look at Kelly with
Well,
her tree
I
up.
was going to say
See?
Kelly's not behind. Kelly's not behind the eight ball. I've got my gnomes out. That's the extent of what I've done so far.
So, Tracy, you have this to look forward to. This was the first year ever I did not put a single ornament on the tree. My kids put all of them on.
Really? Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Except I'm sure it looks very different than what you imagined it
It
might.
was like there were a few I had to go back and replace a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. While they were sleeping, right?
When the kids were younger and I gave them that choice, oh my God, every handmade ornament, which I dearly loved, made out of pasta or made out of whatever in kindergarten and first grade and second grade. I mean, it was cute. It was cute.
Hi, Mary.
Hi.
Good
Good
morning.
morning.
How are you?
Good morning. I'm good. I'm a little sick, so I apologize if I start coughing in the middle.
That's okay. I
Aw.
saw I saw your story that you said you were going to drink lots of tea and honey, and I was like, uh-oh, that polar plunging has caught up to you.
Oh no.
I know.
Wait, are you doing the polar bear plunge too?
Yeah, I've been doing. Yeah.
Oh
Oh,
wow.
awesome. I've been a couple of times and I was watching on the chat, they were saying how the conditions are ideal this morning. And I'm looking outside and going, what planet do they live on?
I guess so.
Not
Oh my
ideal
gosh.
to go in the water.
No, it's
But
amazing. I'm not blaming it for getting sick, but I have, because it's a respiratory infection, I did have to. If it was a regular cold, you're still able to go, but it's
right.
very. I had
Well,
days off.
hats off to those who go in the middle of winter. I mean, I went when it was still fall and sunny, but apparently there's a lot of health benefits. So more power to those who brave it.
Yeah, for sure.
You okay, Trace?
Yes, sorry. I was about to jump in and then Charlie started barking, which again, so Mary might be coughing, Charlie might be barking, Tilly might be whining. You know, this is NOFO Live.
And for the first time in a long time, I have absolutely no one in my house. So this
Oh,
is a
look
treat
at
for me.
you.
Wow. See, and I still have my son visiting, so he's sleeping in my guest room / office. So I'm in the living room with Pepper, so he might be jumping in. We'll see. This
I
is
was
going to be a
gonna
fun show. Glad
I
you're
was
here,
gonna
Mary.
say when you started, Sunita and I hopped on, I could hear Pepper's feet
Yep,
like
yep.
going around.
He's right there, right there.
Yep. All right, so let me take a moment to introduce our guest. This is Mary Latham, and she started a movement called More Good Today. And I'm going to go ahead and let her tell you about the movement and how it started. And we want to make sure that we tell everybody about a campaign that she's got going on right now that I've been promoting. So if you follow me, you see that I've been promoting it on my page. And we want to support that movement because we all believe that the more good there is in the world, the better for all of us. So, Mary, I'm going to kick it off to you and tell us the story of how it all started and your whole story, your whole fun.
Okay, so basically, let's see. After I graduated college, I went into New York City, and I had a couple different jobs because obviously living in New York City isn't the cheapest choice after college. So I was nannying for a couple of families, and then I was doing photo gigs on the weekends, which is what I wanted to be doing. Um, and then I also got a 9 to 5 for kind of health insurance and stability, working at the Practicing Law Institute in Midtown Manhattan. And I was working there on December 14th, 2012. I had just gotten into work that morning. It was around 9:30. I had opened my Google News, and it was the morning of the Sandy Hook Elementary School shooting. And so all of that information was showing up. And I was sitting there kind of just in shock. I actually grew up out here in Orient with no television. So a lot of like the news and stuff, I was kind of shielded from in a way. And I remember being obsessed. Like I was just glued to it, kept hitting refresh. He was an active shooter still, and just being really freaked out about what was going on, as I think we all were. And as I was sitting there, one of my coworkers walked by my desk, and he had a cup of coffee from Starbucks with him. And he was like, "Oh, you should have come with me today." And I kind of ignored him, staring at the screen, and was like, "Yeah, I couldn't afford it this week." And he was like, "No, it was free." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he was like, "Yeah, some man was in earlier buying gift cards for employees and, coworkers. And I guess at the end of the transaction, he just got an extra gift card for $100 and told the barista to run it out on the line of everyone behind him." And it was just such a cool moment. I mean, here was this person that I had worked with. He was a super optimistic guy, and he had been going through a really rough couple of weeks. He had lost his mom. He was going through a divorce. He had back surgery coming up. Like there was just so much going on in his life, and he had just been so down. And so to see this like smile on his face, and I remember it so vividly still, like he was just glowing about this free $4, probably $10 now, coffee that would bought him. And he walked away from my desk, and I used to call her every morning and check in with her. She was battling her second round of cancer, and so I would always call her and talk to her in the mornings. And I told her, the little coffee story really quickly, and then I switched over to the shooting. And she was in the home with no TV, so she didn't know about it. I was telling her all the details and how could this happen, and I had to babysit that night. So I was telling her, like, how am I going to babysit tonight and not cry on this child? And how is there just so much bad out there? Like, it just feels, how could someone do this? And she kind of politely interrupted me and was like, "Mary, you got to focus on that other story you just told me earlier. Like, there's always going to be tragedies and horrible things that will happen in our lives and in the world, but there'll always be more good out there if you look for it." And so that was kind of the conversation that started this idea in my head. I actually went out with a friend that night, and we had gone, and we were talking, and I was telling her the little story, and she was saying, I always thought about how I really wanted to do something positive, like call it like the gratitude project with 2 T's, like attitude. And I was like, yes, and we could post these stories. Like, wouldn't it be nice? I feel like these stories are out there, and wouldn't it be nice to hear them more? And so as we're talking, I receive a text message from my best friend and my roommate at the time. And she had left her phone in a cab the night before. And someone who got in the cab next found it, and it was dead. So they charged it, and they used Surrey to call the last contact, which was her father, and found out the address of the building we lived in and left it with the door guy. And it was just like, that doesn't happen, let alone in New York City usually. And so for that to happen right in this moment, as I'm like, these stories must be out there, it was just such a huge thing. And so me and that friend Laura, we decided to start this little gratitude project with 2 T's, and we made it a Facebook page. We asked people to send stories in, and 11 days after that project launched, my mom ended up in the hospital after an unsuccessful surgery. We were kind of told she had a couple hours, maybe days left, and that week was one of many times that I spent in a waiting room because of her illness. But she had been originally diagnosed when I was in 7th grade, and just kind of had every issue since then. But during that week was where I realized, like, these rooms are just so dark and depressing, and there's nothing in there for anyone to read and get like just a little bit of hope. And as I was sitting there, not even thinking about my project and how I could go look at those stories, I got an email from someone who sent me a really beautiful story to my personal email, not the project. And she had been someone that I knew had already lost both of her parents. And to see her focusing on a positive story during that time, knowing she went through twice as much as what I was about to go through, and she was able to still focus on the good, was kind of like a little shred of hope for me during that time. So I realized, like, what am I doing? We're just sitting around my mom. Like, it was horrible. And there was people in there. I always remember there was a couple in there that was divorced and fighting over whether their 30-year-old should see their ex-boyfriend or not. And it's like, oh my gosh, she's dying. And a guy that was sitting in there alone. And it was just such a depressing place. And I sat in that room and I read some of the stories with my family. And it was just, like I said, just a little shred of hope during that time. And so that was where I created the idea. My mom passed away at the end of that week. And I thought, what if I just went out there and found these stories? Because like, I'm sure you guys all know, you start a project and it like launches and there's like this tidal wave of excitement and everyone's excited for you and it's going. And then like a couple weeks in, it's like died down. And you're like, wait, how do I keep going? And no one's helping anymore, supporting it. So I wasn't getting any stories. And instead of getting discouraged, I thought, well, I'm just going to go out there and dig the stories up myself. So I packed up our old Subaru and decided to take off across America and collect stories, which is what I did for 3 years and
wow.
3,000
That's
miles.
amazing. Now, do I recall that you stayed at other people's houses, like at the kindness of them offering up their homes?
Yeah, so I had a friend, Jack, who was awesome. He helped me make like a little video, kind of me explaining my story, drone footage of the Subaru driving across the Orient Causeway. And I just posted on Facebook and said, you know, if anyone knows anyone, a friend in California, a cousin in Texas, an aunt in Pennsylvania that will let me crash with them as I travel through, you know, let me know. And people just started tagging people. But what it really became was I would reach out to local newspapers or radio stations as I traveled, just so that people knew, hey, this girl's in your town. If you have a story or you know something, connect with her. And so people would always reach out from that too, which of course gave my dad a lot of stress. But I was mostly staying with people that would just reach out for me from seeing me on the news. And I always had a plan, like I get to someone's home and if I really didn't feel comfortable, you know, I could say, oh, I just wanted to meet you. Thank you so much for offering to host me, but I'm not feeling that well. I'll probably stay in a hotel or something tonight. But I never had to do that in all 154 homes that I was in. I never felt unsafe.
Wow. That's really something. That's amazing. And probably made your dad feel better.
He felt real good the day I got home.
Well, kudos to you for taking, what life threw at you and then using the signs the universe gave you to sort of focus on the good, because I think the reality is there is a lot of good out there, but it does get overshadowed by this non-stop, the sky is falling and all the terrible stuff that we pay a lot more attention to. So it really is important to showcase the good that is out there, and it doesn't have to be large, grandiose things. Like you said, it's a cup of coffee, whether it's $3 or $8 now or whatever. The fact that the smile that lingers on that person's face and, dare I say, soul, to sort of take that joy into the rest of the day and the year with them is amazing.
Yeah.
So now, Mary, on your journey, how did you collect like everything that you found? Did you post it all on your Facebook? Did it go into a book? Or how can we see all of these stories?
So I tried as much as I could to post like little updates or some of the stories on my social media. So like on my More Good Today Instagram, on my website, moregoodtoday.com, and then also on Facebook. But to be completely honest with you, there's so many still right now that are like on hard drives. What I would do, I would sit with someone and get their story, was I would audio record it. And then I would take a photograph of them. Just because of the content and like the situation and circumstances, I didn't do as much video just because it felt a little invasive and like a lot of people were crying. I was often crying too, because like Sunita said, like it's just Sunita when you said it comes from like there's a lot of the stories basically came from a painful place. Like it was someone went through something. Like I thought I was going to be collecting all these coffee stories, but really it was, just the way my mission was, it was born out of a death and going through what I went through. So a lot of the stories were really heavy and emotional. And so between taking those stories on and then walking into a stranger's home almost every other couple nights and, driving around towns and cities that you don't know and aren't familiar with and figuring out also how to update your website and order some shirts and all this stuff. I pretty much was falling into bed every night, like at midnight and like half alive, putting some bullet points. My journal looks like a drunk kindergartner wrote it. So I have a lot to organize for the ending part. But right now
it's still a work in progress.
It definitely is. Yeah. The plan is to make it a book to donate to hospital waiting rooms.
Awesome.
So that's
I
your
love
road
that.
trip. That's your road trip journey. Tell us about the current postcard project that you have and how we can all help.
So the postcard project, the little postcards, which say, so more good today was obviously my project was, but it's hard to see, but it says more good could happen today because of you. And on the back is essentially a very condensed version of how my story started. And it's kind of, I'm hoping to use it not so much as like a challenge or anything like that, but kind of like a inspiration for people to realize, like, okay, so this girl just traveled for 3 years and 43,000 miles across America because a guy bought some coffee at a Starbucks. You know, like it all started from one tiny moment of kindness. And I don't know him, and, you know, and I'll maybe never know him. And so to realize that you could be putting these small acts of kindness out there and never knowing where they could grow into and be the catalyst for someone else's huge change in their life. So I was hoping people would offer an act of kindness this season, where they would do something, whether it's literally buying a cup of coffee or, you know, putting flowers on their neighbor's lawn that they never talked to, or buying the groceries for the person behind you, like whatever little thing you can do, just kind of like walking around your community and paying attention, because there's a lot of need. So just like kind of being aware of that and doing a little, your small part. And then what I hope to do is have people mail the postcards in. So whatever they've done, they can write down, you know, on flowers for my neighbor in St. Louis, Missouri. And then they send a postcard from their community. Not this, this is just a flyer. But they buy a postcard and they write it down. And then I was hoping to hang all of the postcards. And really what I want to do at the end of it is to hang all of these postcards in a display among snowflakes at First and South, and then invite 2 local families from our community, the Newman family and the Goldsmith Augusta family, to be able to come there right before Christmas. This is both of their first Christmases after they lost, Newman lost Dylan, their son, who was only 18, and Cindy was a young teacher at Greenport High School. And so just to kind of be able to show them, like, look, there's still, like, you know, there's good out there, and just be like a little encouragement for what must be a really difficult holiday for them, and have them come and kind of just raise money for both of them setting up scholarships. And so just to raise money for those scholarships.
I think, Mary, also sometimes it's hard to write on something or like display this good deed that you've done. So I think also if you know of a good deed that somebody else has done that maybe has gone unrecognized, I think that's also a nice way to kind of like pay it forward and share all these things that are out there in the world that maybe people aren't aware of.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it really can be, you know, my friend actually asked me that. She was like, so the other night I was at the grocery store and I noticed this woman and her young daughter, and they were struggling and they couldn't afford everything that was on their cart, and I was going to pay for it. And right before I was, some other guy like had already jumped in and off. It was so beautiful to see, and I was going to try to do it, but I didn't do it. Does that count? About that?
Yeah.
And I was like, yes, like, of course. Like, it doesn't, you know, it's not like, the concept is to just show all the good going on. Like, it doesn't have to be this very specific thing. And people are kind of awkward about, like, well, I don't want, you know, I wanted it to be anonymous. I just wanted to do something nice. But the other idea of writing it down is it becomes kind of like a guideline for other people, because a lot of people want to do something nice, and want to help, but they don't know what to do. So if they can like go, and the display starts at on the 14th, which is Morgan's birthday. And it's going to start at Floyd Memorial Library and hopefully run for a month, where all the postcards will be displayed. And just for that one night, we'll have the party at First and South. But the display will be at the library, and you can go there and just kind of get some ideas and stuff like that. So just, you know, because like I said, people are just always struggling to figure out what to do. Mm-hmm. And so we have these different ideas. Like there was a high school kid that sent me one the other day that I was talking about, where he just donate his time and go down. Yeah, he wants to start recording their stories, veteran stories, so they're not forgotten.
Wow, that's great.
Like, I would have never thought it. Like, you know, just create it.
Sometimes people think that they have to, people overthink it. And it doesn't have to be that complicated. And that's what I love about your postcard idea, because it's not like somebody needs to write a whole post or a whole story about what happened. I mean, in my mind, it could be if you bought someone coffee, for example, it could be a photograph of all those coffee, you know, the coffee mug in the back of the postcard, and that's it. And I think the idea is more the collection of all of these different tasks in a room rather than the long, lengthy explanation or even the magnitude of the task, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really about taking time to do something and then if you want, taking time to write it down. But time.
I think also it's showing that it doesn't need to be a huge grand gesture. It can be something really small. And I think also, hopefully, it will plant the seed that these things can be done all day long, every day. You know, just as you're going about your day, when you're walking through a door, if you see someone behind you and you decide to stand there for an extra 30 seconds to hold it for them, how many times have you done that? And the person's like, thank you, because people aren't doing that anymore, you know? So it could just be the tiniest little thing, but it will go so far. And to your point that you may never know the man who bought the $100 gift card, but like, look at the ripple effect that his act of kindness had. It's just absolutely amazing. And hopefully people from this project will start to see that, you know, you can do good and you can make kindness an everyday act, even just in the simplest of ways.
I used to joke,
right?
That man, because someone said, did you ever try going back to the Starbucks and figuring out who he was? And I had gone, you know, throughout my 3 years, I came back about 10 or 11 times where I parked my car in whoever's driveway in whatever state I was in, and they would drop me at the airport, and I'd fly back to New York and shoot a couple weddings for a weekend and then go back into the car. And so one of those first times, the first year, I went back into the to go to that Starbucks in the city, and it was gone. And in my head, I was like, like, you know, it was this time on this day, he got a bunch of gift cards, like, I'm going to find him. Anyway, it was shut down. So I thought, you know, someday maybe that man will be in a hospital waiting room for something positive, like, you know, his daughter had a baby or something, like something good is happening. And he just picks up my book and he starts reading, and he reads the intro and realizes that was him on 53rd and 7th, you know, between Broadway. And he was the one that went into that Starbucks. And now I'm in Maine in my tiny little cottage with my amazing husband that's amazing chef, obviously, because I can't cook. And he's making the fireplace, playing with my foster children. And there's a knock at the door. And it's right before Christmas. And I open the door and it just starts snowing outside.
And then they make a Hallmark movie out of it.
He's holding an umbrella, a little hat, and his little mustache. And he's holding my book. And he goes, it was me. And it fades to black.
I mean, I love that story. But here's the thing, too, though. He is all about, you know what I mean? He isn't somebody that necessarily needs to be put on a pedestal, because all of us are him. He probably is just an ordinary man. I hate to use the word ordinary because, you know, what he did created such a ripple effect of joy that we're still talking about it. This is many years ago, right? This is not this year that it's happened. But my point is, every single person can be him. So I was thinking every person's house that you went into and somebody that did a good something that made them smile is him. So in that sense, you have met him over and over in many different forms.
Yeah, absolutely. And we all are ordinary people and capable of doing extraordinary things. The elementary school in Greenport gave me that book, the Extraordinary Act of Ordinary Mary or something. It's like a little children's book. It's really cute. I'll have to get it for Tilly. But it's that concept of we're all capable of doing these small things, and we might never know where they lead, but those tiny acts, you know, are the ones that are translatable and things that we're all capable of doing.
Yeah. I love that you made me cry and laugh within 30 seconds of each other. You're a very good storyteller.
Oh, thanks. Well, that was, you know, it was like constantly just going back and forth, like, just like, you know,
Mary's so ready to pitch to Hallmark. She's like so ready.
I love a good Hallmark Christmas movie.
All right, so I've been enjoying this conversation so much I didn't even look at the time, and we've reached the part of our show where we ask everybody the same 5 questions from their perspective. So I'm going to kick it off and say, Mary, if you were going to invite the three of us to lunch or dinner, where would you take us?
Ooh. Well, the hidden gem, there's so many good ones out here, but I feel like one of my favorite hidden gems is Barrow Food House.
Yes, and that's
My
right near me, so
favorite.
come on down.
Affordable, healthy. It's good.
But I know it was hidden. I mean, I thought it's pretty popular, but good. I mean,
Well, what happened?
happened?
Like a real hike for me, so that's why it was hidden to me.
Yeah.
Yeah, Barrow Food House is definitely probably one of the top ones.
I love that.
Awesome.
And now, Mary, are you a winery or a brewery gal?
So I'm only that person when I like invite college friends out, like shooting a wedding at these locations. But I do really like Croton, I think, because it feels like you're not on the north, like you went to France for a second, maybe.
Totally.
Yep.
Agreed.
Now, you said you lived in Orient. Is that where you would catch a sunrise or a sunset, or do you have a spot you would recommend on the North Fork?
So my friends and I used to meet at Truman's. We would do Tuesdays at Truman's one summer a couple years ago, where like every Tuesday, whoever could come would go to Truman's, and we'd like bring, cocktails or a glass of wine and watch the sunset there. So that has like meaning to me. But there's so many beautiful places out here.
Oh my! I love that idea. We need to revive that. I don't know if you're still doing that, but we need to be part of Tuesdays at Truman's. That sounds really fun.
The weather
does sound fun.
All right, so who's going to ask the farm stand question?
I will.
Wait, you're going to throw
Kelly,
the ball
that's
to
you.
somebody else?
Well, I usually ask the last question.
Oh, okay.
Remember? People are saying behind the scenes. Don't look.
I'm going to ask it.
Cut.
Magical chef, this handsome. Was he handsome? I missed that part of the story.
Oh.
Handsome
Of course
chef
he
you
was
have. The
handsome.
snow is falling outside. What produce have you picked up from which farm stand where you're making a soup?
I mean, obviously, my beautiful, handsome husband was growing it in the garden he grew
In their personal rain garden, Sunita.
So obviously, I'm a Latham. So it's a hard question to completely answer because Lathams, and I grew up working there since I was like way before legal working age. But another farm I really love is the Sound Shore. I think it's the one with the pink tractor.
Oh, I don't know that one.
I think
No, that
Bayview.
Also, way in the city near Barrow Food House.
Yeah,
Oh.
Bayview.
Bayview.
Oh, no.
Yes. No?
There's two Bayviews, and one of them is called something different. I know exactly what you mean because one is on 48 and one is on 25.
Yeah,
and they're
it's
all different things.
or market or something. Because
All right, we got to check it out.
You go inside the market.
Yeah, you can go inside the market at Bayview.
It's
Okay.
all outside.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Country View, maybe? I don't
Well,
know.
I love Latham's. For me, it's like Barrow Food House in terms of hidden because I never go that far. But I was just there the week before Thanksgiving and they were still stocked with stuff. And I got these. I think, Tracy, you got to sample some of them after I cooked it.
Yes, I
The
did.
most amazing mini purple sweet potatoes. And they were so delish. So I think they're closed for the season. But next season when they open, I definitely plan to go there more often.
I actually just went there too, like in the fall, and I just realized I never did a post about it. So now I have to go dig up my stuff and do a post. Now that I know Mary, I can tie it in there.
Wait, Kelly, which one?
To Latham's.
Oh, to Latham's. Oh,
Yeah.
It's a great view.
Yes, it's beautiful.
All right, so we've come to the end of our show where we ask everybody why they love being a part of the North Fork community, which you obviously embody community in general so well, but tell us why you love being a part of this community here.
Well, I mean, it has a lot of significance for me, especially because my family has been here forever. It feels like, which is really beautiful to like have that history aspect. And, my great grandfather like started the historical society in Orient and like wanted to preserve history and stuff. So like I've gotten more interested in learning a lot about my family. But also it's just a great community. I mean, even when I came home, I said, I'm coming home this day and I'll be driving across the causeway at 3:00. And I thought like my dad would show up, like I knew like some of my friends would, but I didn't think that many people were going to be there. And there was like over 100 people there. And like, just, people whose weddings I photographed or done family shoots for, just people that followed along with the journey, just having that support, even on the road, like them just like, supporting me was so huge and meant so much to me. So I think just it's really nice to be from a small community.
So let's just recap before we end of what we can do and when we should do it by for your postcard project.
Yes. Postcard project. I also made Spanish ones. Más bien.
I love that.
Is there a
So-
website or Instagram? Where would you like people to go to get more information about where to send the postcards and stuff like that?
So if you go to the More Good Today Instagram page, a lot of the information is on there. But essentially, it's very simple. Go do something nice. Write it down on a postcard from your hometown, or you could just draw on an index card. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. Stamp it, put it in the mail to P.O. Box 455, Orient, New York, 11957, and mail it out.
Love it.
Amazing.
And when
And then we can go to First and South on December 22nd, and that's a fundraiser.
Yeah, so that'll be a fundraiser. It's kind of like, I'm calling it a More Good Christmas party, but it will be to raise money for those 2 scholarships in honor of the teacher and student that had passed away this year.
And if we can't make it to the party, we can go to the Floyd Memorial Library and see it starting December 14th.
Yes, at Floyd Memorial Library in Greenport, all the postcards hanging. And they also have like a Christmas tree set up. So when you walk in, if you want to just write what you did on one of their tags that they already have, you can hang the tag on the tree. So there's a lot of different ways to do it if you can't get to the mail, apparently.
Fabulous.
that's
Well,
awesome.
Mary,
This is a good week for everybody to start thinking about, ways in which they can do a good deed and get that postcard or get that information to you in whatever form so that you can incorporate it into these beautiful stories, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I just thought it would be I'm a visual person, I'm a photographer. So in my mind, I was just imagining this display of all of these postcards from different cities and states hanging amongst snowflakes, and just being able to have these families walk in and see that, just to like lift their smidge.
Love it.
Sounds-
well, thank you so much, Mary, for being on today.
Thank you for having me. It was nice to meet you guys. Kelly, I've never gotten to meet you. I hope I
I
meet
know. I'm so excited.
Well, thank you for joining us, Mary, and I look forward to figuring out creative ways of, sending you a postcard and doing something good. I'm excited. We'll post in all our stories, so hopefully this week you should receive a few more postcards than you were hoping for.
Yay.
Yes, and you should get mine today if you haven't gotten it already.
I got yours.
You did? Okay, good.
Have a good weekend, ladies. See you next Friday.
Thank you. Have a good
Happy
one.
Friday.
Bye.